Trump-Russia collusion, folks, was tiresome from the beginning. We've been listening to it for over 10 years. I've been fighting against it for that entire time. And now people are doubling down on that, and on top of it, claiming that Trump somehow is being puppeteered by Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. The whole thing it's so absurd when you step back from it. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Sam@what'srightshow.com. That is my email. @what'srightsam on X, formerly known as Twitter. Happy to be here. Look, I think let's talk about the left before we talk about the right-wingers, okay? The so-called. Maybe we'll call them the woke right. People that are claiming that Trump is under the spell of the Israelis. Okay, for the left, to me it makes sense. I get that the average leftist understands that he is not in control of his own thoughts. He is told what to think. He is led there by the party. He's led there by folks directing the agenda. This is why the left always says things in unison. You turn on the media, they all play the sound bites. They all sound the same. They get their talking points and they regurgitate it because they're told exactly what to do. Now, I mean, so they can't imagine that Trump would have his own ideas about how to do things. But he does. And it was absurd. Obviously, the Trump-Russia collusion thing was absurd. We're talking about Mueller and his death over the weekend. Brought back all of the fun memories of the Mueller investigation, the Mueller report. I mean, millions upon millions of dollars spent, lives ruined, people hounded and investigated, some thrown in jail for relative trivialities, all in an effort to break them. You had Roger Stone raided early in the morning with a CNN crew. He was threatened with all sorts of stuff just so he would turn on Trump and he would give up the goods. I mean, this was an honest-to-goodness witch hunt. Mueller, a terrible person. And what did we get out of that? We got out of it that it was nothing more than a slur. The idea that Trump was being controlled by Putin or anybody for that matter. And yet it is still out there being talked about. And again, in the wake of the Mueller report coming back as a topic of conversation with Mueller's passing, people are still completely sold on the fact, and you see it, completely, convinced that collusion was found at all sorts of levels. At any rate, now, flashing forward to 2026, started, of course, in 2023, on our side, certainly, among some on the woke right, this idea that pushing this nonsense of Trump being Netanyahu's stooge. Let me say something big picture about the United States and the West writ large. And that is that there are precisely 3 existential threats that face us here in the U.S. and Western civilization as a whole. Now, the first threat is Islam. The spread of Islamists into the West, slowly conquering us. It's happening. It's there. It's undeniable. Now, the second threat, if you will, is China. You can't underestimate this. China is a massive geopolitical threat to the United States and to, frankly, other countries as well. And via the Belt and Road Initiative and building up the military, China has slowly been, certainly ambitiously, moving toward becoming a world superpower. So when Tucker, for example, platforms that Chinese communist spy professor from Canada who wants parity, wants the U.S. to share power with Russia and share power with Iran and with China, of course. These are just talking points from Beijing, where Beijing wants us subservient to them. That's what that's all about. China's a big threat. And the third threat, of course, is the enemy within. It's liberals, it's idiots, it's morons, people who don't know what's up, and they are actively working to sabotage our society from within. And honestly, most of the show is devoted to the analysis and takedown of that third threat to our country and to Western civilization. Now, notice absent. I didn't mention the Jews, and I didn't mention Russia. You know, and by the way, this is where a number of the podcasters out there with whom I take a great issue now. I actually was on board with them when they were trying to cool the temperature at least on Russia when everybody was getting hysterical about this. Tucker in the early stages of this was actually correct. Now, I'm not saying, okay, let me give something about Putin. I'm not saying, Robbie, that Putin is a good guy. I'm just saying that Russia, you know what Russia's bigger problem right now is? Russia has more in common with us, okay, than we have with China, with the Islamists, and frankly, with the crazy libs. And that is that Russia, by stupidly pursuing this idiotic and terrible war in Ukraine, have exposed themselves, their weakness, to China, who is, by the way, Russia's primary adversary. Trump was able to build a positive working relationship with Vladimir Putin and the Russian government in his first term because he explained this to Putin as plainly as he possibly could. He understood it, and he was able to get through to Putin that we as America and the policy of the U.S. government understood this. There is real concern, and again, nobody's talking about this. There's real concern that Russia will seek to annex territory, parts of Russia in the east. And Russia's, obviously entrenched in a devastating war in Ukraine, resources depleted, military in tatters, war hardened, yes, but able to withstand a second front. Chinese are over there salivating. They want parts of Siberia. And again, this is not something that gets talked about on the evening news because everybody's busy talking about Trump is, Putin's puppet. And it's also stupid. So this is where we're at. There's an opportunity in the midst of all of this chaos to reorganize the world. We can't expel all the threats from within. I mean, you're not going to get rid of all the crazy liberals, but the two external threats can be dealt with. But it requires some amount of unity on our side, on the conservative common sense side. My fundamental problem with all this Israel hatred, I'm not here saying that Israel's a perfect country. I don't really care, but the enemy, of my enemy is my friend. And when I look at those three threats that we face, the two external ones, anyone who is going to fight against those two is an asset. And Israel is. And frankly, now because of Trump and the Abraham Accords and the extension of that, the continued talks, Witkoff in the region, the amount of progress that has been made to loop in even Arab Muslim countries in this fight, unbelievable and unprecedented. I keep talking about that. So where does it put us? I mean, I don't know. I see people right now just spinning their wheels over a lot of stupid stuff that doesn't matter. And I'm worried they're doing it just for clicks and just for a little bit of money, a little bit of lucre. That breaks my heart. I've said that once or twice before. So this war, by the way, Iran is shaping up in a very interesting way. And the developments over the last 24 hours, maybe 36 or so, have been interesting because remember at first there was Trump basically wrote on Truth Social, again, this was about 2 days ago, wrote on Truth Social that he had begun conversations with the Iranian side And the Iranians came out and promptly denied it. And then you had this explosion of liberal delight all over the country. You saw it on every cable news show. You saw it all over X, all over the front pages of our numerous mainstream media newspapers. Everybody's saying, see, we're getting more accurate information from the Iranian regime than we are from our own government. Right? And that's how that went. And then it turned out yesterday that it was true. It turned out, it was confirmed, that messages were being relayed via Pakistan. We found out that there was a plan that was put forward to the Iranians. There was a 30-day ceasefire offered. And even there was leadership floated that was part of the original Iranian regime. See, there's stuff happening right now that is, Trump wants to neutralize the Iranian threat. Iran is a threat. I'm sorry, Iran is a much, 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 much bigger threat to you and to me and to our children and to our grandchildren than Israel, than Russia. But China is the biggest threat. This war has put China in an absolute pinch. Our usage, by the way, our oil usage, I keep looking at this. We're almost self-sufficient. And if you add the bounty of the Venezuelan oil, we are above what we need in terms of supply. So the U.S. is not pressed for the oil resources the way other countries are. I mentioned earlier that there are actually three oil markets or crude markets developing, three different and very distinct price curves that have grown over the past week. And we have the lowest. I mean, we're now, again, we're sub $100 a barrel in the low 90s. The last time I checked, and there are countries paying as high as 180. Among them, China. It just costs them that much because of what's going on. Venezuela also a blow to the Chinese. Everything that Trump is doing is to tackle those three things. And I'm going to go back again. I mean, we're fighting the libs at home, tooth and nail. I want to see more happen there. But the two external threats, the Islamists and China, every move that Trump is making is a strategic cornering of those two threats. And it's important that we see it. It is, because we can get very removed from it. By the way, I'm going to go back to just for a minute. Humor me on this. Trump is a puppet, a stooge of Putin, is a stooge of Benjamin Netanyahu or whoever. Yeah, there's a huge difference between conservatives and liberals, Republicans and Democrats. And they did a study on this. This was like 12 years ago they did the study. And they asked over 600 U.S. voters they answered certain questions, and they basically said that self-identified Republicans, people who said that they were Republican, showed a significantly higher level, internal level, a locus of control, meaning that they made decisions for themselves. And Democrats, by contrast, showed a much higher external locus of control. They got their directions externally. Now, hear me out. You know this, right? You know this. You talk to liberals all the time, and a liberal won't know what to do. They won't even know what the right thing to say is. What is politically correct? Actually, political correctness itself is an example of this, is it not? If you want to be politically correct, you wait to hear from somebody else to tell you what is appropriate to say. Think about that. 52% of conservatives in a Cato Institute poll in 2019 agreed, quote, my life is determined by my own action. Okay? Only 33% of strong liberals agreed. Here's another quote. When I get what I want, it's usually because I worked hard for it. Again, 53% of conservatives agreed with this. Only 30% of strong liberals did too. Strong liberals were much more likely to believe that strong people or powerful people are determining life, their life around them. This is crazy. And by the way, these are Americans. Like there's always a gap in this with Europeans. Europeans have far more or less, this is my impression at least, far less, self-determination or that kind of power to them. I think there's less of that. But this is the thing, and so they, the problem with the left is they fundamentally do not understand the guy that Donald Trump is. They can't even wrap their minds around the idea that is a strong alpha leader who comes up with his own thoughts. And the problem that we have, and this is important. The problem that we have right now on the right with all of these weird podcast dorks out there is that they're fueling all these conspiracies, right? It's the Jews, it's the blacks, it's the this, it's the that. And this is why we call it the woke right. We call it the woke right because it's the same weakness that the left has. Your, luck in life was not determined by you. Your bad situation is somebody else's fault. It's a powerful conspiracy that has made things bad for you. And the reality, the intellectual truth of this is that the left has destroyed our society in many ways. And now I'm going to stand up for Tucker Carlson here. There's a big controversy. He basically said Sharia law is good. And I listened to the clip and I didn't hear him say that. I mean, maybe he says it somewhere else, but the clip that everybody is sharing basically just says that the West has been destroyed from within. And I agree with him on that. And he talks about how there are countries, Muslim countries that have Sharia law and they're actually very safe and they're very traditional. Now, nobody wants Sharia law, and I prefer if he didn't talk about that. But it is a fact. And when I talk about that third threat, that internal threat, the left has destroyed our society. They have. But you still, if you are a conservative and if you love your country and if you want to make the world a better place, you don't sit around and go, boo-hoo, they ruined me. You go out and do it and you fight it and you have optimism and hope. You don't sit there, woe's me. It's the Jews. This bothers me so fundamentally. Communist regimes around the world in the 20th century took over. What was their promise to the people? You were victimized by powerful forces that you cannot control without our help. That was it. You can't do this without the government. And from Karl Marx through now, the left has been telling poor people across the world, I mean poor, not economically poor, but sad people around the world, trusting people around the world, gullible people around the world, the same thing. You can't achieve anything without us. Without the government, you don't have a hope. And that's the difference between the right and the left. And the other thing that I'm starting to realize is that some of these so-called conservatives are actually just rebranded leftists. And that's it. That's the long and the short of it. All right, we got to take a quick break. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network, the program brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash, 800-304-2000, 800-304-2000, because you deserve what's right.
The Sam and Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. I'll tell you one thing I am always right about, and that is that you should never, ever, ever handle your injury case on your own. Now, I had a friend call me today. This was interesting. Now, this person, she's now a client, but she's a top-notch executive, has a absolutely horrific slip and fall, has a terrible back injury, and she's trying to go at it and deal with it on her own. And she calls me and she said, yeah, I probably should ask you for some advice. What do I do here? And this is what I hear from so many of our clients. I'm not the kind of person to hire a lawyer. It's not who I am. And I said, I know you aren't, but you got injured. And if you think that they're going to do right by you, you're gravely mistaken. So we talked about it, agreed, and now she's got help. And the best part about it, I said, now you don't have to worry about it. You've got doctor's appointments to go to. You still have to do your job. You've got your kids, you got your family. Everything I always tell you here, I'm telling her, and she agreed. So this is what you need to do. 800-304-2000, 800-304-2000, samandashlaw.com. That's the website. And of course, as always, no recovery, no fee. You don't pay anything out of your pocket, no upfront monies, no costs, nothing. And if it doesn't work out for whatever reason at the end, you don't pay a dime. It's a great deal. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right. All right, folks, yesterday morning, CNN Wolf Blitzer played this, had to say this after 2 days of poo-pooing the idea that Donald Trump was actually talking to the Iranian regime.
There's important breaking news coming into the Situation Room. We're now learning from a senior Iranian source that there has been an outreach between the U.S. and Iran.
Okay, there we go. It makes sense, right? That's the story. Now, well, because they were denying that there was anything. So Trump, number one, Trump's post on Truth Social was accurate, and now we're dealing with. Well, now let me pull up the peace plan. Let me tell you what this is. I think Daily Mail ran a takedown of this, but it's out there. It's different sources, and yeah. So let me pull it up here. I got it. Don't panic. Robbie looking at me a little concerned. Okay, so the plan is this. All right, it's Iran must. This was the proposal that was given via Pakistan to Iran, given a 24-hour time limit. As of early this morning, don't know if it's a yay or nay, but figure it out. Iran must dismantle its existing nuclear capability. No nuclear weapons, number two. No uranium enrichment on Iranian territory, meaning the nuclear fuel for the power plant would be provided to them. The stockpile of uranium goes away. The facilities, the ones that all got bombed, they have to be dismantled. The UN's nuclear watchdog goes in. Iran has to abandon all of its proxy warriors, Hamas and Hezbollah and the like, okay? They have to cease funding of these entities. They have to open the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's missile programs, this is important, must be limited to both range and quantity. And any future use of missiles would be restricted to self-defense. All right, there it is. What does Iran get, according to Trump? They'll receive a full lifting of sanctions, and U.S. would assist Iran in advancing its civilian nuclear program, okay, building a power plant, and a snapback mechanism. So an automatic reimposition of sanctions if Iran fails to comply, that would be removed. Huh, okay. I don't know that the Iranians are going to take this, but it's an interesting deal. And the other interesting component of this, and this is for the love of all that is good in the world, don't let anybody tell you that Trump is a George Bush 2.0. This is offensive. You know, Trump at no point is making a demand here that Iran have free and fair elections. This is not a second Afghanistan. This is not a second Iraq. Robbie, you're nodding. I mean, it was so stupid, right? We went in, we want to do regime change. We're going to just topple it all, and we're going to find somebody. We're going to install a puppet and a weak, decentralized government. The reason that Trump is cooling on the pretender to the Iranian throne, this guy's name is Reza Pahlavi. He's the deposed Shah's son. Smart guy, interesting guy, has a huge following, mostly outside of Iran. Of course, there's some monarchists inside the country that certainly like him as well. I like him, okay, but I don't have access to what Trump has access to. I don't see what Marco Rubio sees, and I have a high degree still of confidence in this team to make the right decision. And the right decision is one very similar to what we saw in Venezuela. Now remember, the Venezuelan regime, the communist regime, is still in charge. Delcy Rodriguez, the former vice president, now acting president, talks a lot of nasty stuff publicly about Trump and about the U.S. But she has been lockstep, checking every box, crossing every T, dotting every I, helping the U.S. and doing what we want. We're not asking Iran to change their entire way of government. We just don't want them to be a psychotic, homicidal Islamist state. We can deal with Dubai. They're Islamic. By the way, I get that a lot. Sam, you seem to talk a lot about Islam. You don't like them. Well, I just don't like people that are going to, talk about annihilating me. That's all. I can't coexist with those people. But Dubai, what about Dubai, Sam? Would you go to Dubai? Yeah, I've been invited. I probably will go to Dubai at some point. Maybe I'll get a home there. Where does Qatar? Is that where he's got a place in Qatar or Qatar? Maybe I'll get a place next to Tucker's. Yeah, we can wave to each other in the balconies. Now, here's the thing. Any country that is able to put the murderous element of Islamists, terrorists in check is good. By the way, a lot of these countries in the Middle East that are thriving are have expelled all of their radicals out, and the radicals are all in Europe. They're all in the U.S. They're in Canada. You should look this up. I mean, it's a fact. But a country like Iran not only invites the radicals in, but funds all of these crazy people all around the world. I am distrustful of Islam, full stop. But I can appreciate and understand and cooperate with on a global, in a global environment with a country like Dubai, with the United Arab Emirates, right? And with Qatar, or any other country that's organized and decent. So, but this is, yeah, Robbie, you're reminding me of the funding article, right? Where Qatar cut funding. Yeah. UAE. Oh, it was the UAE. Like, that's right. Producer Robbie here reminding me that the Emirates had cut funding for citizens studying at UK universities because they were worried, actually, that their people that they were sending abroad to study in the UK were getting radicalized by crazy Islamists, and they didn't want them getting radicalized. Citizens of the Emirates getting radicalized in the United Kingdom, in the West. And so they cut funding to them. So you can't, we're not paying for you to go to school in the UK anymore. Now, to me, that's profoundly common sense, right? And again, my problem is that I just don't think that mosques belong in Germany. I think that Germany is a Judeo-Christian country. The mosques don't belong. And if people want to live Sharia law or whatever the hell, people talk about, fine, do it. Go to Saudi Arabia. Go to Iraq, go to Syria, go wherever you're from and enjoy that. Live your life there, or move abroad and renounce it. You're done with it. But allowing these radicals to take over, public institutions, take over universities, take over, political office, this is craziness. It's insanity. It's a takeover. So there it is. Those are my thoughts on it. But Trump is not looking for regime change per se. He wants a right? The Islamic Republic can stay where it is. It seems to me this is the strategy, can stay where it is as long as the person leading it is U.S. friendly. And the moment that he stops being U.S. friendly, he's gone. He's dead. That's the deal. This is so badass. This is what America First foreign policy looks like. And going back to that ridiculous interview with the Chinese professor, Zhang was his name, that Tucker sat down with and talked about how the U.S. needed to end its hegemony of the world, and we just go out and we have to start being cooperative and share power with Russia and China. All of this is, straight CCP talking points, of course, but beyond that, it's insanity. America First to me means that we are the biggest, baddest country in the world. It doesn't mean that we go and give, $1 million here and there to every stupid, program around the world via USAID and spend bazillions of dollars. It means that we go in and people fear us. That's it. That's the objective, to be feared, to be respected, and then for us to take peace, by the way, if everybody's trading with each other. Trade is the ultimate thing. It doesn't matter who the Russians have as in their government. It doesn't matter who is the head of Syria. And a lot of people right now talking about that the Jelani guy shouldn't have replaced Assad, and both of them are bad guys in different ways. What we care about is the person on our side. Are they working with us? And the fundamental difference between Trump, first term and second term, and the little intermezzo that we had there, the 4 disastrous Biden years, is Biden would do things like shun and criticize the rulers of Saudi Arabia because they were, quote unquote, violating human rights, because they decided to, and I think it's not disputed, is, MBS, Sheikh Mohammed bin Salman, had his adversary, Khashoggi, buzz cutted, sawed up in the Turkish consulate, their embassy. I don't think I think that happened. I'm not denying that it happened, but the point, and remember then Biden, said terrible thing. Literally, we're supposed to be trading with the Saudis. We want their cooperation when it comes to Iran, the real threat. And instead, he's sitting there making value judgments. Different countries do things differently. And my idea of America First, I think it's very, very much on the same page with Trump, is in the West, it's Western values. And in Saudi Arabia, it's what they do. And in Russia, it's whatever they want to do. It's okay. I can have my opinion about it. I can say that's good or bad, but we have to work together. The problem that is what we have with Iran, the problem that we have with China, is that these countries are hostile to us and have proven hostile to us over the years, right? Now, Democrats fighting all of this tooth and nail, right? They're fighting, well, even the TSA stuff. My God, did you see the latest on the TSA? Did you see Delta Airlines has a special desk for members of Congress? You know, like when you get bumped from a flight, well, that probably doesn't happen to you if you're a congressman or a senator. You get bumped from a flight, you got a problem, you got to call a number, you're on hold forever. There is a special desk, top-notch VIP service for members of Congress. And I love this story. Delta basically came out and said, yeah, we're closing this down until the TSA gets funded again. So this is fantastic. And in the meantime, the Democrats still think that this is going to be a pressure point. Trump alleviating some of the challenges the TSA is fighting with people calling out sick because they're not getting paid, with ICE officers that are losing their minds. This was Chuck Schumer yesterday on the floor of the Senate.
Everywhere ICE goes, trouble follows. We've seen that. And it is highly likely the airports will be no exception. No one trusts that ICE is going to make things better.
Okay. Meanwhile, CNN later yesterday did a report from Atlanta Airport, where it's one of the places where they had the biggest lines over the last week. Some real horror stories there. And this is what the reporter was forced to admit.
Well, there may be a celebration here at the airport before it's all said and done, especially for the folks who've been working nonstop, extra shifts. If you look right here, you can see this is the main checkpoint. Almost no lines, no waiting, Sarah. And it's unbelievable at this point. This morning started briskly with a lot of people showing up here at the airport. Lines were long. People were waiting about an hour. But when that rush hour went away pretty quickly this morning, we ended up with this. And there seems to be more lines open than normal right now with the TSA workers here breezing people through. In fact, a lot of folks have been showing up shocked at how short the lines are.
Shocked at how short the lines are. Yeah, if you look at the video, there the images behind the reporter, you can see lines that are completely empty. The Democrats are losing on this front. Now, the problem is, again, with all these government shutdowns, the perception is that Trump and the Republicans control everything, so when things don't work, the party in power gets blamed. The Democrats keep pushing this. So Trump uses his executive power to fix these problems, and for the most part, here at least, he's certainly succeeding. Now, this has spurred a conversation about whether the TSA should be discarded as a whole. Because why not just privatize it? There is a screening partnership program that allows private contractors to handle this. And it has to be under TSA oversight, standards, trainings, et cetera. But about 20 U.S. airports right now are in the SPP as of the latest TSA data. San Francisco SFO is the largest participant of this program. Now, you go through the efficiency numbers. The private people are always doing it better. Yes. But to me, it's such an example of this mess with the TSA. The more you centralize things and the more you become dependent on the government, the worse things get. And this is why, government healthcare, single payer healthcare, kill me. Literally. We don't want this. But the leftists would love to put everything under state control. And then what you'll get is something that, like these horror images coming out of Cuba. Yeah, but everything is provided for you. You don't have to, the government takes care of you, Sam. It's perfect. But then when the government, takes a dump and has a problem, you have no other recourse. And the problem with the TSA right now is the monopoly. It's a government monopoly on a crucial element of one of the most important components of our economy, which is domestic and international plane travel. Like the Strait of Hormuz, which now most Americans have heard of, it is a choke point in the free flowing of our economy. And in many ways, ironically, the constant up and downs and yo-yoing of TSA agents and people canceling their flights, canceling their vacations. For Vegas, this is a problem. You know, a lot of people going, hey, honey, let's not fly. We'll push our trip back. Cancellations are up. It's a drag on the economy. The Democrats are fine doing it because they want to score political points. Remember, again, this whole thing is about wanting to keep ICE agents away from polling places. They want to cheat in the upcoming election. They want illegal immigrants to vote. Otherwise, this would not be a talking point. It would not be a deal point of any interest to the Democratic Party. This was back in 2014. They were talking about Ukraine. They were in the midst of reaming Trump for being a Putin stooge. There we go. Full circle. Putin stooge. And Chris Murphy, back in 2014, Democratic senator, said this. Pay careful attention to how this clip ends.
The negotiation didn't have a path to citizenship. It was entirely on their terms in order to get Ukraine funding, right?
Well, I mean, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So right. You are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe. And it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
The people we care about the most, the undocumented Americans in this country. That's who the Democrats care about. Sam Mirejovsky here on the What's Right Media Network. Sam at what'srightshow.com, at What's Right Sam on X. Of course, the podcast, What's Right Show, wherever you get your podcast. I'll see you tomorrow.